Hey, we're back. Thank you all so much for joining us. Nice to see all your comments already coming in. Please keep them coming throughout the evening. And if you've got any burning questions, we'll try and ask our guests them this evening. I don't know where you all are, but where I am, it's been raining since Christmas. So I'm wishing you all some sunnier weather soon. We've got two fantastic drams today. One that I'm really intrigued to learn more about, especially with the cask. Let's dive in straight away. You know how this format works. So we've got our coin. Heads, it will be the traditional, and tails, it will be the explorer. It's tails. So hopefully, with the power of technology, we'll have our first guest appearing soon. Okay.
Hey, works.
So please introduce yourself and tell us where you're joining us from.
All right, so my name is Oskar, and I'm the distillery manager of a small Swedish distillery called Agitator. So based in Sweden, in the cold hearts of Sweden. As I mentioned previously, it's like minus 14 degrees centigrade over here, so it's stupid cold. But it's we learn to cope with it, at least.
It beats me complaining about the rain then, doesn't it?
Yeah, but at least it's warm. It's
Yeah.
something.
So I think we've got to have a lot to discuss with this whiskey, but I'd really like everyone to get on and taste it first. So could you introduce the dram, and then we'll maybe start discussing the distillery?
Sure. So what you should have in your glass is this one, our chestnut cask. And this is pretty much kind of the DNA of our company, where we start to work with new ways of producing whiskey and also new ways of trying to find exciting flavors. So it's in our DNA to explore what whiskey could be and how we can improve flavors and find new exciting stuff. And this kind of chestnut cask expression, that's one of our best-selling products that we have in Sweden. And it's really unique in terms of what we can do with whiskey. Since we're based outside Scotland, we have a bit more playroom within the regulations of how Scotch or how whiskey should be made. And one of the big loopholes that we found when we started this company was that in Scotland, you have to mature your whiskey on oak barrels. But as soon as you venture outside Scotland in European Union, we're allowed to use wooden containers to mature a whiskey in. And for me, this was kind of interesting because then we can add a new layer of flavors to kind of a traditional style of spirit. So when we founded Agitator company, like back in 2015, we wanted to experiment with different wood types. And I did some research and I found a lot of papers written on chestnut wood and how it would affect spirits, mainly Portuguese brandy, but also it was kind of a comparison between French oak, American oak, and chestnut barrels. And what we learned was that as soon as we put something in a chestnut barrel, we start to extract more flavors. It's basically the same flavors as you would find in a French oak barrel, but it kind of goes to 11. It's an extra layer of intensity. So in this product, the chestnut cask, all the coloring is from the barrel. So we haven't added any color. This one has actually only been matured on chestnut wood for I think it's 8 months. Previously, it was matured on bourbon barrels. So we started the first 2.5 years on bourbon barrels. Then we transfer it to chestnut wood, and we kind of make a finish on chestnut wood. And we have 2 good reasons for doing that. The first one is the intensity of chestnut wood. It gives a lot of color, a lot of flavor in a very short period of time. And the second reason is more like the practical one, because for some reason, back in the days, people figure out that oak barrels are really good for keeping whiskey inside the barrel. Chestnut, not so very good. we're having lots of leakage in our barrels. So we lose a tremendous amount of spirit due to leakage. So the angel's share, or devil's cut in our case, that's kind of a huge deal in terms of maturing spirit on chestnut wood. We do have some barrels that have been maturing for 5 years, but in that case, you almost have to scrape the spirit outside the barrel because it's either evaporated or you don't have as much spirit left. But the fun thing to work with chestnut is the new exciting flavors it adds to the spirit. And in my mind, it's kind of like blackberries. You get this kind of dark fruity note. It's somewhere between like a sherry barrel and a New American oak barrel. It's hard to distinguish those if you don't have it side by side. So in some cases, you can kind of mistake the chestnut wood for being a sherry barrel because it's really fruity in terms of flavor. So if we compare chestnut wood to like American oak, which is more like vanilla, or like French oak, which is kind of spicy, it tends to lean towards French oak, but it has also kind of a sweeter note to it, but it's backed up with a lot of tannins that we get from the wood. So it's more like a complex flavor. So it's a really fun product to work with. And in our case, when it comes to pretty much all the whiskeys that we make, we tend to have a small proportion of chestnut wood in our blends just to keep it together, because it acts like kind of a binder in terms of flavors. It kind of gives everything a bit more exciting texture. So it's a really exciting stuff to work with.
So I must ask, so for anyone that doesn't know, with casks, they're staves that are sort of held together by metal bands, but a lot of it is actually just the tension of the wood that's holding it together. So you were saying that you were getting a lot of leakage. Are you finding that the chestnut wood is warping way faster, or is it absorbing a lot of the whiskey and changing?
It's more like when we fill a barrel with a spirit, it starts with it acts like a normal barrel, but after a while we start to see some droplets seeping through. It's not the junction between two staves, but in the middle of a stave you start to get like a small, like a wormhole almost, where it starts to drip. So a lot of work that we do in the warehouse is to find those kind of leakage, and we put a small bung inside those holes just to make sure that it's sealed again. But it seems to be easier for spirit to transfer through the wood if we use chestnut compared to oak, which is more like, it's more dense and more packed with layers that keep the liquid inside. But after a while, I think that the oldest chestnut barrels that we have at the moment, they're around 8 years old. Still look like new barrels. So hopefully they won't warp anything, but they're still quite leaky, sadly.
We've got some comments in here saying fruits and berries and some lovely sweetness. I agree. I think for me, I'm actually getting some really like dark cherry notes.
Yeah. And it's almost like you put them in like a sugary syrup as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about the distillery. You sort of hinted that you guys want to do a bit of exploration. Obviously, you're not afraid of hard work if you're using chestnut casks.
No, we tend to take the hard route. But apart from this whiskey being matured on chestnut wood, one thing that really sets it apart from more traditional Scottish style of whiskey is that we have a vacuum distilling system. So all the whiskey that we produce have been distilled in traditional copper pot stills. The biggest difference that we do is we reduce the pressure inside the still with a vacuum pump. And this allows us to change the boiling point of the liquids, which will also alter the flavor of the spirit. And to kind of give you the short version, it makes the spirit taste better. That's the trade-off of using a vacuum system. But yeah, the story of the company, we started out building this company back in 2013. Like, we did a feasibility study to find out if it's possible to create a new distillery in Sweden. We do have like 20 distillers producing whiskey in Sweden at the moment. Most of them are quite small, so we wanted to build like a bigger commercial size plant to be able to make the business work as well. But we needed something that to set us apart from the more traditional style of whiskey that we produced here in Sweden. So our goal was to create something that actually enhances the flavor of whiskey and lets us as a company try to find new exciting ways to explore what whiskey can be. And we wanted to do really good whiskey in a short period of time because cash flow is quite crucial nowadays. So with those things in mind, we started to build a plant where we pretty much cherry-picked all the technology we could find in terms of how to produce whiskey. So I found the best brewing equipment from Germany that I could find back in back in the days to create the best possible mash or wort, which is packed with flavors. We brew to a really high gravity, so we are able to create more alcohol in each batch. And this will also, in the long run, affect the flavor of the spirit, because the higher gravity we brew to, the more concentrated flavors we get, and we get fruitier notes from the fermentation as well. And once we moved to fermentation, we decided to focus on longer fermentation period times. So more or less the same setup that we would have in a brewery was kind of transferred into the distillery. So we ferment for a longer period of time. We're really keen about the yeast that we use. So we select the best strains to achieve the best possible flavors. And after that, we opted for this kind of vacuum distilling system. And in our distillery, we have 4 sets of stills. So we have a pair of stills that are of high reflux model, so really tall, like Glenmorangie style of stills. Mm-hmm. And we have a second set of stills that are made like really short and stubby ones. So they are supposed to be the opposites in terms of the flavor that we can extract. So with this in mind, we started with one batch of wash, which is then split into 2 different production lines, where we have the taller stills creating a fruited, lighter style of whiskey, and the shorter stills creating a heavier style, more rounded flavor, oilier style of spirit. So we're able to create 2 different kinds of whiskeys from the same raw material. And this is also done with a vacuum system, which allows us to control the boiling points of liquids, which makes us really energy efficient, but also allows us to reduce the amount of fossil oils that we find in our spirit, but also kind of strip off those nasty, harsh notes that we often find in a new mixed spirit. So it's very focused on like the technology behind creating spirit and trying to give us the best possible setup to do new exciting stuff. And then when it comes to maturation, we explore different types of wood. We put the spirit into barrels at a lower filling strength than you normally would do in Scotland. We tend to fill the barrels at 55% of alcohol. And this helps us extract more of those water-soluble flavors. So it's really a good way for us to kind of show what we can do when we have all the tools available to create something that's not traditional. So if we were to walk into our distillery, it's more like a madman's laboratory than a traditional style of distillery. It's huge though, but we do everything differently, and you can't really translate the way we produce compared to a more traditional style of distillery. So the technology is more or less the thing that sets us apart, but also the willingness to do things differently. Apart from working with different barrel types, we explore different yeast strains. We do different mash bills, so we don't only use malted barley. Just recently, we released a new whiskey that's made with 4 different cereal types. All of them have been malted. So it's produced like a malt whiskey. It is a malt whiskey, but we can't call it a single malt due to regulations. But yeah, we tend to do things differently. And I saw a question regarding the name of the company, Agitator. In Sweden, we kind of translate that into rebellious person. Someone who wants to agitate is someone who wants to stir up the pot. And this is kind of the name. It's supposed to symbolize our willingness to do things differently, and that we aren't afraid to walk our own way, to find those kind of new exciting things to work with in terms of both maceration, how whiskey could be perceived, and we want to challenge ourselves, and we want to stand on the kind of the barricade and show the world, like, yeah, choose Agitator, because you will experience something that's new and exciting, something that haven't been done before.
So you've mentioned there, like, about the name and how you want to be an agitator and you want to sort of, push the boundaries, and you've mentioned all the different things that you have. You have the taller stills for the lighter new make squatter stills. You've also talked about maybe going in at a slightly lower barrel strength. You've got a lot of options here. How do you keep track of them? How do you decide, which levers to pull and which levers to leave alone?
Yeah, it's the hardest thing to do. But I think once you start to read scientific papers about whiskey production, you start to realize, like, all of this kind of good stuff regarding how to enhance flavors or how to alter the composition of a whiskey. People have thought about this like 50 years ago, and they came up with really good, interesting solutions. But the way to kind of know if you want to implement them or not is to ask yourself the question, like, why are we doing this? If I ask pretty much anyone in this chat, why do we mature whiskey at 63% in Scotland? I think you have like a bunch of reasons for doing that. But I don't think any of those reasons would have anything to do with product quality. And if you start to think about that, it gets a bit more interesting, but because you start to realize, well, you have like loads of reasons to do something, but how many of those reasons are tied to the quality of the output that you actually are making? And if you keep that thought in your head and start to ask yourself, well, if you want to distill a spirit, why do we do it like in the normal way that's been done for a couple of 100 years? And then the easy answer is, well, because we know what the output should be. But if we then start to think about, well, if we start to alter some of those kind of parameters that will affect flavor, what are the most important things to alter flavor to make it taste even better? And I think that's the deepest rabbit hole that I've ventured into. It's start trying to figure out how to create good whiskey. And it's been a nightmare in many cases, but nowadays I think we kind of narrowed it down to, well, we want to work with a specific way of brewing because that will impact flavors later on in the production line. We want to highlight the yeast strains and the time that we let the mash ferment, and also the way we distill with a vacuum system where we can control boiling points and we can strip up the nasty compounds a bit easier. It's a really good way to create the best possible new make spirit that we can do before we put it into a barrel. So for our chestnut cask expression here that you're tasting, this is just a bit over 3 years old. So it's not that of old whiskey, but most of the kind of fiery notes that you would find in a younger style of whiskey are more or less, they have disappeared. And it's due to our selection of how we want to kind of tweak the process to work for us to create this kind of output that we want to have, instead of trying to tame a beast and make it create whiskey.
We just had a question coming in with is actually quite a good one, really. We're talking about casks and chestnut casks. Do you have a cooperage? Do you have a relationship with a cooperage? Do you have someone on site that helps you manage all of these casks?
No, we kind of we source our barrels from around the world. In terms of chestnut barrels, we source them from Portugal, but also Spain a couple of times. We do have a cooperage in Sweden. They mainly are focused on creating oak barrels of Swedish oak, and it creates a really beautiful spirit. It's like loads of white pepper notes into the spirit, so it's really good, but it's super expensive to get a hold of those kind of barrels. So we tend to buy from America if we want to have American white oak barrels. Bourbon barrels are sourced from America. If we want to have sherry barrels or any kind of fortified wine, we try to find them from both Spain and Portugal. We do get some quite exotic casks, both from Sweden. Just recently, we found some cider barrels from northern parts in Sweden, where they kind of do like a freeze distillation of their cider, and then they put this kind of higher ABV cider into barrels, let it mature. We got a whole 10, 12 barrels, which turned out to be really exciting. Lots of apple notes to the spirit. So we try to find kind of unique barrels, but we don't have any cooper on site. We try to do our best to repair barrels, but in the end, if we can't fix them, we sell them as garden furniture, more or less.
And I think this is a really great question, and I'm really excited to hear the answer for this, especially with all the different things you've been covering. What are you excited about for the future for you guys? What are you going to be bringing out that we should be looking out for?
We do a lot of strange things, to be honest. One of those things that I'm pretty much the most excited about at the moment is our yeast experimentation. We started like a collaboration with L'Allemand, which is a huge yeast supplier to most of the distilleries around the world. And we started to receive strange package with yeast. They didn't put a label on them. They just said, well, go for it, make some fermentation and distill it. Try the spirit and tell us what you think. So we did loads of distillations, and we realized, well, this is something completely unique. And we got afterwards the answer of what kind of yeast we were using. So we used red wine yeast for our mashing, which was really cool. Gave us kind of like a more sour note to the mash, but once we distilled it, kind of changed the flavor to be a bit more softer in some strange way. But those kind of yeast experiments that we do are really exciting. We have loads of different types of cereals that we've been using. Just recently, we released, a couple of years ago, we released a whiskey made from 15% roasted wheat malt. Pretty much the same malt that they use to make Guinness Black. But in Guinness production, they probably use like 4 or 5% of the malt or mash bill is this roasted kind of wheat. We used 15%, and it turned out to be like the wash that we created looked like crude oil. We distilled it, and we got loads of coffee notes and burnt chocolate notes to the spirit. We matured that spirit in Oloroso barrels. Turned out to be a really perfect match. And nowadays, I think I have the next batch, which is matured on PX barrels, so a bit sweeter sherry, which I think should be really, really exciting. One of the strangest barrels that we actually have is, I don't know if you know the spirit called Triple Sec.
Yeah.
orange liqueur. I have a couple of those that I've been maturing our peated style of whiskey in. Turns out to taste like chocolate with orange flavor to it. I don't know if you have it around Christmas, but something that's infused with chocolate that's infused with orange. So yeah, we do have a lot of things, and we try to always push the boundaries of what we can do and keep ourselves busy, more or less.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your whiskey with us. I think we might have all found our new favorite distillery. I'm really excited to try some more things from you guys. And I think what I really like about it, well, I've never had a chestnut cask before, so a first for me. But something that I'm very keen to always get out is that, young whiskies can be really, really fabulous. And I just wouldn't have realized that. Did you say this was 3 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it shows that, distilling and maturation knowledge is just always constantly on the up. And the whiskies that are hitting the market are really, really fabulous. And this is one of them. So thank you so much. And hopefully you're gonna stick around. You're gonna join us at the end of the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Cool. See you soon.
Oh wow, I thought that was really great, and really interesting to hear all the choices that they're making. I'm definitely going to have to do a little bit of research on that vacuum distillation. Sounds like I need to, definitely need to know more about that. Right, so hopefully we've got another guest coming. So through the power of technology, they're going to join us now. Yeah, look at that.
Hello. I'm
Hello.
still here.
Thank you so much. So if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us where you're joining us from.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Declan. I'll be talking about Deanston tonight. So I live in Glasgow, and we're based not far from here. So we have our bottling plant and our sort of headquarters just outside of Glasgow, not far from here. Obviously, Deanston Distillery we'll be talking about is a little bit further, but it's not too far. It's only an hour away north of Glasgow, roughly. I always forget to talk about myself when I do these tastings, so I'm like, nobody wants to hear that. But no, my role within the company is I'm actually an account manager, so I sell all the brands that we have, which are Deanston, Tobermory, and Bunnahabhain. So I'll only be talking about Deanston tonight, but we do have the other whiskies in the portfolio. So I sell all those whiskies into Scottish specialist whisky shops, so all across Scotland, a bit of England, and yeah, we're all ambassadors in the company. We're all out and about at different tastings and festivals, and we kind of share the brands ourselves, and that's just the way we do it. So yeah, it's a great portfolio, and I'm sure people in the call will maybe know Bunnahabhain certainly is the one that people know the best. And especially when I'm at shows and festivals, that's the kind of one that people have tried and they know the best. So Deanston is a little bit lesser known, a bit younger as well. Not really young when we're talking about Oskar's talking about Agitator there, which is a young distillery, but I guess in the grand scheme of things, the distillery opened in the 60s, 1960s. So yeah, it's still fairly young in the terms of the whiskey industry. But yeah, that's what I do. So I'm living in Glasgow, but I'm from near Deanston actually. That was my local distillery growing up. And I kind of fell into a job that came up as a tour guide. This was like 10 years ago. So I got the job as a tour guide, and the night before I went on the interview, I was learning about how whiskey's made, you know? I really didn't know anything about the processes. So like I said, that was over 10 years ago. So I just fell in love with whiskey because of Deanston. So it's pretty cool to now come full circle. I did other things in beer and different parts of the drinks industry in between, but I kind of came full circle to now be with the brands again, and it's kind of where I started it all off. So for me, Deanston 12 that we're having tonight is like, that is my dram that got me into whiskey. So I hope that is why I wanted to share it on the Whiskey Me this month. First tour you ever did, nice. Yeah, maybe it was me.
Yeah.
Nah. You would have probably said that. Yeah, so Deanston 12, when I've got a bottle here.
Yeah. I feel like everyone's quite thirsty, so let's give us the lowdown.
You're like,
on
shut up,
Deanston
just
12.
pour the whiskey. I like the shelf that you've got there, James, actually. That's all we've been having. Have you got a...
Yeah, I got a 12-year-old cask strength.
Yeah, and you got a Deanston up there? No?
Uh,
No Agitator or Deanston. That's shocking, that.
oh,
Thought you'd be prepared for this. Anyway, I'm cracking a wee bottle of the Deanston 12 here. Sorry about the dodgy camera laptop. I think we need an upgrade in the company here. So yeah, let's pour Deanston and have a wee try. And oh, you can't beat when the pop of the cork on the first pour, eh?
we've got like a little ASMR going on there. I could hear it glugging in.
Yeah,
So very
and
good.
I'll be an ASM artist tonight
Yeah, very good.
and an ambassador. Off to work. Sorry, I don't know if am I allowed to talk to,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
the
of course you
comment
can.
section.
Yeah.
Let's have a wee try of the whiskey. I mean, like for me, because this was the whiskey that got me into whiskey.
Mhm.
As soon as I smell that, it's like I'm back in the distillery, and I think that's the power of like a really transparent whiskey I like now. With like you really get the taste of the character of the spirit. I've kind of moved away from personally drinking whiskey. I love bourbon casks, and that's what we're getting tonight. It's like straight up American oak ex bourbon refill casks, full 12-year maturation in those casks. It's funny going from Oskar talking about. I was fascinated by the technicalities about the Agitator whiskey, and yeah, we're going to be talking super traditional like American oak. So hopefully it keeps you interested. But yeah, that's Deanston. I think Deanston 12 is just such a perfect dram for. It's a hidden gem, you know. Like I still at loads of whiskey shows that I do, people come up and they're like, "I know Bunnahabhain. I've had Bunnahabhain 12 for years." Blah blah blah. Like I've never tried Deanston, you know. Even whiskey, really heavily heavy whiskey people are still just like, "Oh, I've never really had a Deanston. I've passed it in the car." So it's on the way up. It's just outside of a little village called Doon. So that's kind of famous because there's a beautiful castle there that was in the Monty Python film. It was in Outlander. They've filmed Game of Thrones around there. So the area is kind of a pass through to the sort of Highlands, which the geographical Highlands anyway. We're a Highland malt whiskey, but the Highlands, I would say, Calendar and upwards, you're kind of the gateway to the Highlands near us. So it's like people pass through and pass by, and they're like, "Oh, I've seen Deanston, but I've never tried it." So that's what I love to do is put the word out there about how incredible this whiskey is. And like I say, it's a bit of a hidden gem for me. And it's a great whiskey to introduce people to whiskey as well. So I don't know who's on the call and what your experience is with whiskey, but for me, Deanston is just like a perfect dram to get people interested. So yeah, one thing I'd probably note, or a couple of things I'd note about the whiskey, everything on the label is what you're getting here. So I always say to people, you know, if it doesn't say that it's not got colouring, then it probably does. If it doesn't say that it's non-chill filtered, then it probably is. And for me, with a quality whiskey, I'm always looking for something that's non-chill filtered and it's natural colour, and that by that nature, it's also going to be over 46%. So I don't know if people on the call will all know what the chill filtration part is, but I pride a lot in the fact that we don't chill filter, which a lot of to keep consistency in the industry, a lot of bottlers before they a lot of bigger brands and so on will chill the whiskey before it's bottled, and they'll strain off those solidified oils, but those are carriers of flavour and their texture. So when you're straining those off, it's keeping your whiskey consistent no matter the temperature, if you're having it on ice, wherever. But for me, it's removing something natural. So I'm shouting about that, the fact that all of our brands are non-chill filtered. The whiskey is a little, you'll get darker whiskies than this, but this is the natural colour from the wood. So what you see is what you get. I love it, and 46.3, like I say, it has to be above 46 when you don't chill filter. And for us, it's always been 46.3. That's been a decision that was made many years before I started, that that's our sort of bottling strength. So our minimum bottling strength is 46.3. You'll get, when you're talking, I don't really like to talk about tasting notes too much. It's a little bit boring if I'm just telling you what you get. But for me, Julianne, our master blender, what she talks about a lot is that you just get that really super fresh cut grass. It's like a freshly mowed lawn. I kind of make the joke when I'm doing tastings that it's like a breakfast dram, but drink responsibly, obviously. But
Yeah.
it's kind of got that really nice malty cereal, kind of granola kind of vibe going on, you know. It's very malty, and obviously because we're using a lot of that American oak, you're getting that vanillin, the ester, and the character of the wood, getting a wee bit of that coconut flavor as well coming through. And then obviously a touch of spice with the cloves. You might get that kind of clove sort of finish that we talk about in the tasting notes. But yeah, I'd love to hear what people are thinking of the dram and how it's holding up against the Agitator, which is a very cool whiskey. I've tried it myself, but I didn't have a dram tonight.
One of my favourite phrases is breakfast whiskey, because whenever someone's not heard it, you see them sort of like go, oh, what?
I think we're going to get I mean, we have a reputation in Scotland that we like drinking, but yeah, certainly please drink responsibly. But it certainly warms you up on a cold morning in Scotland. I think I could do one of these every morning. No, I'm just kidding. Every evening, he said here, James. So yeah, I mean, I can tell you a wee bit about the distillery, I guess.
Yeah, I think before we go on to the distillery, you've sort of mentioned about chill filtration and how some larger companies, you know, the reasons why they do it. But you sort of mentioned there about on the label and what people should be looking out for when they're looking for whiskies. But you also mentioned 46%, and that's actually quite a key indicator that I think if people are in a whiskey shop and they're looking to buy their next whiskey, that's something they should look out for. I wonder if you could kind of elaborate on that specific number or higher.
Yeah, I mean, from my knowledge of it, that if you're not chill filtering your whiskey, you're leaving all those natural esters and oils. If you're bottling below that 46% mark, because the alcohol percentage is lower, you're actually getting that sort of cloudiness in the bottle, in the glass. Bear in mind, you know, if I've got these in the boot of my car when I'm going to do tastings, so when I'm pulling a bottle out and it's the middle of winter in Glasgow, it will be slightly cloudy because those oils will solidify. By keeping it above 46%, we allow the temperature to be lower in the bottle, then it's not going to go so murky and cloudy. But obviously, if you do stick an ice cube in there, it will go a bit hazy. But from my knowledge, that's the reason, is that you can't go below 46 for that. So yes, like you say, James, that's a good indicator. If you're going to see a whiskey around 40%, 43%, it's not going to be chill filtered. It's going to be chill filtered.
And also, like I always encourage people, drink whiskey however you want, but if you are, trying it in this fashion and then maybe adding some water, you might actually see some Scotch mist, which is that haze that you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I live in a tenement flat in Glasgow, so it's pretty. I've not put the heating on. I just came in and got on this tasting, so I've not had the house warmed up, but it is a little bit colder, and yeah, so it sometimes does get a bit hazy, but you really can. I encourage people to sort of hold it in their mouth, warm it up, let those oils coat your mouth. And one thing that I would point out at this point, just talking about the actual liquid, we have a term that we call Deanston. It's categorized as a waxy whiskey. There's two whiskies in the Scotch category that are classified as this, which is Deanston and Clynelish. There's a super geeky reason for this, and I always hesitate to tell certain people to feel like that's too much information, but the reason that Deanston is waxy is because we don't clean out our faints receiver. So it sounds a bit minging, but what it is essentially when we're distilling, after that second distillation through the spirit stills, you're separating your head, your heart, your tail. The head and the tail are what's not at the right percentage yet, so we're passing those back. They're called the faints. They go through a receiver, which is just like a big box, and then they go back through the distillation process. So that receiver, it's picking up all those compounds from the distillation, the esters, those oils, and you can actually put, like Andrew Waite, who runs our distilleries. He took us round and he put a blue glove on and he stuck his hand in this faints receiver, and it's full of black oil. It's amazing. It's not the most. It doesn't sound like the nicest thing, but it's fascinating to see that this is where we get that character of Deanston being waxy. And I don't know if you are trying this right now, if you pick up on that, but it's got that real nice coating of the mouth. So for me, because we don't chill filter, because we've got that waxiness, you get that really interesting character, and it's the reason that Deanston is sought after to be used in blends, which I can't talk about, but there's a real character to Deanston whiskey that is sought after because of that. It's very unique. So that's one big thing that I love about Deanston is the texture of it.
Yeah, I mean, I find this really delicious. We should really touch on the distillery. So,
Yeah,
we're talking in broad strokes here, but a lot of the distilleries that we think of in Scotland, they probably started off as illicit distillers, and it builds up, and then a town builds up around them, and they come to the large giants that we know today. However,
exactly.
you mentioned that although I guess it is kind of old in the grand schemes of Scotch whisky, Deanston isn't that old. So I wonder if you could touch on the distillery, how it came about, its kind of
Yeah,
mission
so
statement.
I always talk about it as a place that was never meant to be made with you make whiskey in, but it's the perfect place to make whiskey. So Deanston was a cotton mill, and you'll see on the bottle there's a mill at the top there. If you can, there's the
Yeah.
cotton mill building. That's the main building. So it was actually built in 1785, and it was designed by Richard Arkwright. So he was a pioneer of the Industrial Revolution. So this was one of the kind of first factory concepts around, and from there on, it was a cotton mill right up until the 60s. So we transformed it into a distillery, which opened in 1966, 65, 66. So yeah, when I say it's the perfect place to make whiskey, it's because of a few factors. One of which is that we're situated on the River Teith. So the River Teith is one of the fastest flowing rivers in Scotland. Runs over granite. It's got a lade there's a channel, a lade that brings the water into the mill, which had 4 water wheels. So those water wheels were obviously replaced in modern times with turbines. So the turbine house is our source of the power. So we're completely self-sustainable. We only need to use, I believe it's around 30% of the power we make, and the rest we send back to the grid. I'm trying to remember my facts here from being a tour guide there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the part of this sort of sustainability part. I think we were doing those things that are seen as cool before they were cool, because like we make one of the oldest organic whiskies on the market as well. We've got one. I think we have the oldest organic. We weren't making it first, but we have the oldest. I think that's right. It's a 21-year-old we've made. Not all our whiskey's organic, obviously, but we do have the organic liquid there. The other thing is that we have a large proportion of the casks that are matured in a part of the old cotton mill, which is the weaving shed. So this is where there was full of weaving machinery, and it's got these vaulted ceilings and very, very thick concrete roof, and that's to deaden the noise of the machinery to the outside. Obviously now it keeps the place at a constant, lovely, cool temperature all year round. It doesn't fluctuate much at all. And those vaulted ceilings were to allow the condensation from the heat from the workers to drip down off onto the pillars. So it's just a fascinating place to be, and that's where we have the dunnage casks stored. We've got about 30,000 casks we can keep at Deanston, so we did build more warehouses when the distillery opened. But I just think it's such a cool place, the target market for Deanston as well. We do some interesting releases. We've done a tequila cask. We've got one coming out soon, which I can't talk about just now, but we do some experimental casks and different finishes and wines and sherries, and I think it's just like it's always been a cool place, and it's built, the whole village was built upon it being part of the cotton mill and all the workers, so you can actually walk into the village and see all the workers' cottages. The other thing is, if you see on the top of this bottle, sorry about my dodgy camera there, but this is actually this is the Deanston coin. So this was the coin that the workers were paid in at the mill, and they could spend this in the village of Deanston. So it's just a little nod to that there, that you can see that on the top of the bottle. So yeah, that's
I love that. I love that. That's so good.
yeah. So that's a little bit about the distillery and the place, and I think the people in the place, for me with whiskey, there's so much liquid on the market, but it's really what sets places apart is the story of how they came to be and the people that are making it, Taking you back, someone said.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a little bit about the processes as well. I think I've not mentioned, but we have one of the last remaining open top mash tuns in Scotland. So yeah, that's a stainless steel mash tun raked. Our tun room is all stainless steel tons. We can ferment around, well, up to 100 hours. You're getting those nice fruity flavors coming out. And our stills are pretty large, over 24,000 liters, and they're charged at about 16,000. So you're getting that really nice interaction with the copper. It's got those, you know, bulbous kind of shoulders and a lot of copper contact, removing those heavier compounds. So tall stills, upwards line arm. So it's making that really nice, light, fruity character that we get with Deanston. Yeah.
So that'd be quite interesting. You could actually maybe delve a little bit deeper into the line arm. Well, first of all, actually explain to us what a line arm is.
Yeah, sure. So in the distillation process, you've got your still, and the line arm is what takes the vapors into the condenser. If that line arm is at an upward slope, it's encouraging reflux, which allows the spirit to fall back down into the still, and it's kind of creating this reflux and creating a lighter spirit. If you look at a still that's maybe shorter, like at stills on Isla, they've got the downwards line arm, it's discouraging reflux, so you're getting a heavier character out of your spirit. And this is a massively important part of the process, is the shape of your stills, the size of them, the height of them, how much you charge them as well. Like at Bunhaven, for example, we're half filling the stills, so you're getting a lot of copper contact. And yeah, that copper contact, it's stripping out those compounds, the sulfur compounds from the liquid. So you know, if the spirit's rising, the vapor's rising up quickly, getting out of the still into the condenser, you're getting a heavier, more of those sulfur compounds as well.
What should we be keeping an eye out for Deanston in the future?
Well, like I said, it's under embargo.
Out the question, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I can't talk about it yet, but I'm really excited for it to come out. It's coming out in at the end of March, so it's not long to wait. So please keep an eye out for that. It's a pretty limited release, and it's a pretty cool one as well. I'm really excited about it. But in terms of Deanston, Julianne is creating drams that are interesting, intriguing. Obviously, it's side by side right now with Agitator. This is a very traditional dram, but if you're delving into our portfolio, you could go and try our 15-year-old tequila cask finish, which is really quite intriguing to people because they are either put off by it or they really want to try it. The nose is quite heavy on the tequila, but the palate actually, the spirit of Deanston really marries perfectly with the tequila. It's like Highlands of Scotland meet the Highlands of Mexico, I always say. So yeah, I would definitely delve into our portfolio. We've also got the Deanston 18-year-old. So I recently done a tasting with the W Club from the Whisky Shop. So that won the Deanston 18 won the Whisky of the Year overall category. Deanston walked away with a gold medal, I believe, in that as well. Deanston 12, sorry. So if you love this Deanston, I'd really recommend you to go and try the 18, which is finished in first fill bourbon. The 12 is all refill bourbon, so you're getting that more intensity, kind of gingerbread, custard gingerbread flavour, which I love. So the Deanston 18's incredible. But I would say the Deanston 12 is just such a great entry into our range, and just to give you what the character of the spirit is all about. Like I say, I love whiskies that are in bourbon casks because you really get to taste the character of the spirit. There's nothing to hide. It's not covered with anything. There's no peat. There's no heavy sherry flavors or wine, you know. It's just really giving you an idea of what the distillery is about. So that's why I wanted to include it in this month's Whisky Me.
Oh, that's great. Well, you did. You shamed me at the beginning with my whiskey shelf, but I do actually have an independent bottling of Deanston to the side here.
I know you got all your Springbanks there, and I'll take, you do have the Bunnahabhain, so I'll let you off. But
yeah, and I got that one, and also this is a fact. This is true. I'm booked in to do a tour at Deanston at the end of March. So how about
amazing.
that? How about that?
Maybe I can come up and we'll have a dram.
You can redo your old job of tour. I would love that.
Health and safety is a bit more strict since I was at the distillery over 10 years ago being a tour guide, so it's far more strict. They don't let me just roam around in the old warehouse rooms and all that. So, but But no, it's a great tour. If anyone on the call is looking for a tour to do, get yourself up to Deanston. I mean, if you have a driver, it's great, but you can get on the bus, you can get can get a taxi from Stirling. It's about 10-15 minutes from Stirling. So yeah, get up to the distillery. You can have a wee coffee and a sandwich at the coffee bothy on site. It's a great day out. So I hope
There
you
you
love it,
go.
James. Is there any questions that or I've been missing questions.
Oh, there's been a few. We've tried to pepper them in there, but we'll come back to as well if there's any pressing ones.
Cool.
But thank you so much for spending your time with us,
No, thanks
and
for
hopefully you're going to join us again in a minute as well. Is that cool?
Yeah, I just do what you tell me. I'm here chilling.
Yeah, good. Thank you so much for sharing your whiskey with
No
us.
problem.
Thank you. There you go. What an enjoyable evening. I mean, I started at the beginning this evening talking about how it's been raining every single day, but this has cheered me up no end. Two amazing whiskies, a first for me with the chestnut casks, and then also fascinating to learn more about Deanston and their waxy characteristic. Right, hopefully we can have our two guests join us back again. There we go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for spending the evening with us and sharing your drams. I have one final question for both of you, really, and it's kind of, what are you excited for, or what do you see happening in the future of whiskey? You're both coming from very different perspectives there. We've got the traditional, we've also got like the new world, I guess. But yeah, what are you guys excited for? What do you see happening going forward?
Oskar, do you want to start?
Yeah.
You go for it, man.
Well, I can take the rebellious part here. Well, kind of exciting with we're seeing loads of new things happening with distilleries. We kind of recently, like 10 years ago, we started to see no age statements become more and more common, and hopefully we can start to talk more about the taste and the flavor profile of the spirit being consumed instead of the age of the product. What I've learned through my years, I've been 15 years within the industry, is that I'm the one who tend to get older. The spirit tastes more or less good after 3 years. But yeah, I think I would really love to see more like an open mind towards age statements and flavors. And my goal for our company is to be kind of the pathfinder for new ways of producing whiskey and trying to challenge the old traditional ways of doing it. So hopefully in the future we might find the way of creating the world's best whiskey. I don't know if we will do it, but it might be the way to get us forward to create new exciting stuff. So I think we have to explore new things, and we have to stay curious of what we can do, and we have to let our palates decide what's good or not a number on the bowl.
Fantastic answer. Go on, then you can try and top
Yeah, no,
that.
I agree with a lot of what Oscar's saying, and I think in general, yeah, you should go in with an open mind to whiskey, and some of my favourite drams have been non-age statements. So I certainly think it's a traditional dated idea that the age indicates quality, and yeah, for me, some of my favourite drams this year have been no age in the bottle. For example, I love the Ardnamurchan release, the Heritage Barley release this year, and I love the Agitator. I was actually trying that when I've been over. I'm going to Stockholm next month, actually, Oscar. I'm doing the
Okay.
Cinderella,
Yeah.
in the
Give
cruise.
me a call.
Yeah, I'll maybe see you there.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, I do think going in with my whole thing with whiskey is that I want anybody from any walk of life to be able to drink and love and consume whiskey, and I think that in days gone by, it's maybe it's an old-fashioned idea that you can sit and have a dram of whiskey, and it's maybe not as accessible for certain types of people that think that it's not for them. But actually, if you start to make really beautiful cocktails, like I'm talking about the Deanston 15 tequila that we put it in a whiskey margarita, and suddenly you've got a whole new group of people who are interested and intrigued, and then they might go and try a dram, whereas before they were totally put off by the idea. We sometimes put our Deanston 18 into a really nice old fashioned, And I think this whole snobbery around whiskey, I just don't like. I really love to chat to people about, like getting them into whiskey and trying new things. So yeah, I think for the future we'll see, I believe serves like with whiskies are going to be even bigger, and it'll just introduce people into really appreciating the dram. And it's maybe a bit intense for people to just have a dram of whiskey, but you can work your way up and get people into it by more accessible ways.
Yeah,
Oh, very
yeah,
nice.
yeah. I think there's a lot of things you can do. Like if you start to explore, like during classic cocktails, I think some people might be put off by the thought of using like a high-end premium style of spirits to create your cocktails. But the truth is usually tastes better if you use good stuff from the beginning. So if you really like a whiskey, I think the best way to kind of take a step into trying different cocktails, what I've usually done is I take 5 centiliters of a whiskey that I like and just add 1 centiliter of sugar syrup to it and call it a cocktail. It's super good. It's a sweeter style of whiskey. You get the taste of the whiskey, and it's something that's a bit more adventurous. But yeah, you can do a lot of things, and I think it's exciting stuff that you can create with whiskey.
I think it's exciting for the Swedish market because obviously the SWA, the Scotch Whisky Association, are a bit stricter.
Yeah.
We can't use maple syrup casks or chestnut. Like I think there's definitely there's a benefit to protecting those traditional values, but also I think there can certainly be opportunity for them to loosen up on some of the uses of casks and maybe introduce different things that aren't maybe allowed. Like I don't believe tequila casks were allowed a number of years ago, so things like that. I think opening it up to more sort of modern ideas will be quite a cool way to see the industry going.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. Well, thank you both so much. You've put a smile on my face today. It's been fantastic. And hopefully we'll see you on this show again soon.
I hope so. It's not the whiskey that's put a smile on your face, no?
Oh, yeah. You'll come back.
It's us.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm going to say goodbye to you guys both, and then I'm going to wrap the show up. But thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, what a great show that was. I loved all of it. And I think there's a really great point at the end that whiskey is a fun drink, and you should drink it however you want, and experiment with it. The Deanston is actually one of my favorites to have with soda water. I think I've touched on it this show before, but it's something I love to do. And yeah, let's try some more whiskies in cocktails. Well, I hope you all have a lovely evening, and we'll catch you again soon. Bye.